Hey guys, in this video we're going to be looking at some of the weapons handling basics for the Smith & Wesson Model 10 revolver. The Model 10, the revolver in this game, it's the most basic weapon in the game. It's a lot easier to handle, it's a lot easier to operate, there's not much to it. But there's a few tips and tricks that you may not be aware of, and you may be able to learn a little something from the video. So let's have a look at it. When you start the game, this will be basically your starting configuration. I don't know what condition the gun's in, so again I need to inspect the gun to make sure it's ready to fire. In this case, swing the cylinders out by pressing E, and see there's 3 rounds in the chambers, so they're all over the place, and basically the gun won't fire every single time I pull the trigger. Sometimes they'll do click, so the first thing to do is to load up a full chamber with all of the rounds, and there we go, swing it back in and the gun's ready to shoot. There's no safety to worry about on these guns, so every time I pull the trigger the gun will go off. The only thing is there's 2 different fire modes on this gun. First, it's called double action mode. If I shoot with a hammer down, pull the trigger, the gun will take a split second longer to go off, like so, because I need to pull the trigger the full way back and pull the hammer the full way back. Like so. The other fire mode is called single action mode, which if I pre-cock the hammer by pressing F, pull back on the hammer, it means the trigger, it's got a much shorter trigger pull, and the gun will go off immediately, like so. Let's try that again, like so. Basically in the game you should try to operate in the single fire mode when possible with the F key, or with the hammer pulled back. It just means that you can shoot instantaneously. There's not much of a delay between the two, but I prefer it with the hammer back. Now if we look at the rounds, swing the cylinder out, we can see the ones with sort of shiny centres there are the ones where the primer has been struck. They're the bullets that have been shot, and the one at the top of the chamber there is the one which hasn't been shot. So because we can't take rounds out individually, we need to use the extractor to extract the rounds and then pick up any unfired rounds. The other feature of the game is sometimes the rounds won't eject properly, and this is pretty much standard with most revolvers. Is sometimes the cases will expand when fired and they'll become stuck in the cylinders, so it's going to require a bit more force to eject the fired brass. In this case, usually the extractor won't come the full way out, as we see here. Usually it'll be stuck all the way in, or the rounds may come halfway out. Basically if they come all the way out, like we see here, they're basically going to fall out. So in real life what you do is you hit it a smack with the palm of your hand and you force the extractor out like so, ejecting the fired brass. The only other thing is sometimes when we do that, we go to eject the rounds and even the unfired rounds won't be ejected, which is unusual. The only times that might happen is if there's maybe a build-up of lead or something in the cylinder, or a build-up of dirt, but for the most part it only applies to the unfired rounds. The other thing we can do is we can spin the cylinders, which if we only have the one round in it, you can play a bit of Russian roulette. Will the gun go off or will it not? In this case it probably will. Oh, no it didn't, because in that case the hammer was pre-cocked, and as we can see, every time we pull the hammer the cylinder will rotate by 1. In that case the cylinder needed to rotate by 1 to fire, and it didn't because the hammer was already cocked back, preventing it from rotating. So oh, that's interesting. Should actually have went off that time. But oh well, it is slightly bugged, and sometimes when you put the... See, this should go off this time because the round's at the sort of 1 to 2 o'clock position, and it didn't. And then the rounds advanced to the flipping 10 o'clock position somehow, so a bit bugged, a bit strange. The only other thing to remember is, actually let's do that again, if we load up around here, around there, one there, if we've got a random assortment of rounds, the gun's not going to go off every time. So if you're spinning the cylinders, even if I do it with the one round in it, if I spin the cylinder, when you first load up the round, it will load it up in the correct position, so when you close the cylinders, the gun will go off. If I spin it, it's not going to be in the right position to go off when I pull the trigger. So it's the same if we have a couple of rounds in there. If I spin it, close it, oh, it did go off, but will it go off the next time? It won't go off the next time, because that was an empty cylinder. It should go off again, and then 2 more. So something to be aware of. Even though you can spin the cylinders, there's really not much point doing it, because you'll just end up sort of leaving yourself in the lurch when you least expect it. The only other bug is this allows us to spin the cylinders even when the gate's shut, when it's in the gun, which you wouldn't actually be able to do in real life. To do that in real life, you'd have to actually half cock the gun. You'd have to pull the hammer half back in order to spin that. Actually, it won't let you spin it with the hammer fully back, which is correct, but it still shouldn't be able to spin even in that mode. But yeah, something else I was going to mention, can't remember what it was, but I'm sure it's not that important. Anyway, I think that's everything I have to show you, so if you like my video, give me a thumbs up and have a nice day.